Hi there, my name is Richard McMunn from the interview training company passmyinterview.com, and in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to pass your first ever job interview. So if you have an interview coming up and you've never been to one before, please stay tuned and watch this tutorial fully from beginning to end, because I promise to help you succeed. Now, lots of you have been contacting me on YouTube and saying, Richard, I've never been to an interview before. I am nervous. How do I pass? Well, to help you succeed, this is what I'm going to cover. I'm going to give you a list of interview questions you really must prepare for if it's your first ever job interview. I will also give you suggested answers to those questions to help you succeed at your very first job interview. And I will give you some brilliant tips on how to answer those interview questions when you have zero work experience and you've never been to an interview before. And I will also tell you about further resources you can get access to help you pass your first ever job interview. So there's 4 strong reasons why you should stay tuned and watch this presentation. Now, just very quickly, before I get into the first job interview questions, the tips and the answers, a very warm welcome to this presentation. My name is Richard McMunn. That is me there in the centre of the screen. I am a former firefighter of 17 years. And since then, I've been helping people like you to successfully pass their job interviews. And I always do that by giving you top scoring answers you cannot find anywhere else. On that basis, please do make sure you subscribe to the channel by clicking the red button below the video, and then you won't miss out on any of the training videos I upload. Please also connect with me on LinkedIn. I've put my LinkedIn link in the description below the video, and it's always great to connect with like-minded professionals such as yourself. And please do, this is very important, give the video a like, because that shows me you enjoy and appreciate the content, and I will therefore create more for you. Let's get into the training. So, how do you pass your first ever job interview? Well, it's very, very important to use the fact that you have little or no experience to your advantage. So don't be nervous before you go to your interview. And of course, you're going to say to me, well, Richard, how do I do that? How do I use the fact that I have little or no experience to my advantage? Well, here's what you need to do. First of all, talk about the fact that you are willing and ready to be trained to a standard they need in the job you are being interviewed for. So the majority of hiring managers want to take somebody on who is enthusiastic and passionate, and they can train up to a specific standard. You should also talk about your enthusiasm and passion for commencing work at their company, and also getting off to a flying start in your career. So when they say to you, when you come into the interview room, you sit down and they start off and say, introduce yourself to us or tell me about yourself. This is the best way to answer this very first interview question if you have no experience and it's your first job interview. I am very hardworking and I am enthusiastic to get started in a role that I believe I am going to enjoy. I am also a very determined person who genuinely wants to make a positive impact in my first job. Before I applied for this role, I read the job description and the person's specification carefully, and I am confident I can carry out my responsibilities to a very high standard. Now, although this is my first ever job, I believe this will be an advantage because not only can you train me up to a standard that is needed, but you can also teach me the fastest way to be a high-performing and productive employee. I feel confident that if you do hire me, you will be impressed with my team working skills, my ability to learn things quickly and retain information, and also my passion for quality customer service. That is a brilliant answer for somebody who is attending their very first job interview and they have no previous work experience. So you can either pause the video if you want to and take a note of the questions and the answers as we progress together, or if you want to wait, I will tell you where you can download my full set of 21 first ever job interview questions and brilliant answers in PDF format. Now, at some stage during your first job interview, they are going to ask you the following question: why do you want to work for us? Now, although you have limited or no work experience and this is your first job interview, you are not at a disadvantage when answering this common job interview question. And the best way to answer this interview question is to focus on the following three things in your answer. Tell them what makes their company unique. So carry out a little bit of research about their company before you go along to the interview. Have a look at their products and their services. Have a look at their history and what makes them unique. Also, tell them that this is going to be a place you can learn and develop professionally from all the other people who are working there. And also tell them that you plan to stay with them for many years and help them to grow and develop as a business. So here's my suggested answer to that job interview question, why do you want to work for us, if it's your first ever job interview. I want to work for you for three reasons. The first reason is based on the fact you are a forward-thinking company and you provide excellent products and services for your customers. So this means I will always be challenged in the role and I will also need to work to high standards. Now, the second reason is I feel this is a place I can learn and develop. And from what I can tell, there are lots of dedicated and talented people here whom I can work alongside and learn the right way to become a highly effective employee. Finally, although I am new to work, I do want to stay with the same organisation for a long period of time. And based on your history and the customer satisfaction levels you constantly achieve, I think this is somewhere I will be very happy in my work. Again, that is a brilliant top scoring answer to that common job interview question, why do you want to work for us? So they are also going to ask you this question during your first ever job interview. What are your strengths? Now, because this is your first job interview, you will need to focus on strengths that are based on your personality, your willingness to learn, and also what you actually enjoy doing. So let's now take a look at another strong, positive answer to this common job interview question. What are your strengths? Here we go. My strengths include my positive and cheery attitude to life. I genuinely believe you get out of life what you are willing to put in. I am also a fast learner and I can retain a lot of information quickly. And this means I will be able to get up and running in the role quickly. Other strengths include my desire to work as part of a team and support my colleagues to complete their duties as well as my own, and also my loyalty, my honesty and my integrity. If you put your trust in me and hire me within this position, I will not let you down and I will be a proud member of your team. So there's some great strengths in there that you can use if this is your first job interview and you've got no previous work experience. Now, please don't go anywhere because I still have lots of interview questions and tips and answers to work through with you. But when you're ready, if you want to click that link in the top right hand corner of the video, it takes you through to my website, passmyinterview.com, where you can download my 21 first job interview questions and brilliant answers. And it's a great document that you can have within your inbox within 2 minutes from now. So let's move on. So how do you answer behavioral interview questions if it's your first ever job interview and you've got no previous experience? So behavioral interview questions are the type of questions where the interviewer says to you, give me an example where you have provided excellent customer service. But you're thinking to yourself, I've never been in that situation, so how do I answer it? Or they might say to you, tell me a time when you worked under pressure to complete a difficult task. So how do you answer these kind of questions? Well, where possible, use situations you've been in that are outside of work. So if they say to you, give me an example of when you've worked as part of a team, think about a situation you've been in where you worked with others, perhaps playing team sports, for example. Or if they say to you, can you give me an example of when you've worked under pressure? Talk about how you prepared fully for your examinations or your academic studies. Here are 2 really good tips for answering behavioral interview questions when you've got no previous experience. So where you've never been in a situation before, give an example when you saw someone else demonstrating it to a good standard. So for example, if they say to you that question, give me an example of when you've provided excellent customer service, talk about when you've been on the receiving end of brilliant customer service. And I'll give you a suggested answer in a second that's based exactly on that question. Give me an example where you provided excellent customer service. Tip number 2, always use the STAR technique to structure your answer to behavioral interview questions. So that means you simply format your answer in the process of situation. You tell them the situation you were in, you tell them the task that you needed to achieve, you tell them what action you took to complete the task, and then you tell them the results of your actions. So if they ever ask you a behavioral interview question, always respond using the STAR technique: situation, task, action, and result. So here's an example answer to help you answer that question. Tell me a time when you provided excellent customer service when you've never had a job before and this is your first ever job interview. Here we go. Although I have never held a job where I've had to give excellent service, I do know how to provide it. I understand that in this job, it will be my responsibility to give your customers brilliant service because that encourages them to come back to the company time and time again. Only last week, I entered a store and the customer service assistant immediately welcomed me with a smile. They took the time to ask me questions about the goods I wanted to purchase, and they offered suggestions about the different products they had available. They then wrapped up my purchase carefully, showing that they cared, before taking my payment and wishing me a good day before I went on my way. Now, because they were so nice and they made me feel welcomed and valued, I have since returned to the store on 2 further occasions to buy my goods. I understand how important it is to provide great service, and I will always make sure I represent your business positively when dealing with your customers. That is a brilliant way to answer that behavioral interview question. Tell me a time when you provided excellent customer service when you've got no previous work experience. It works really well because it shows that you can observe what good practice is and what good customer service is. So another guaranteed interview question that will come up during your very first job interview is, what's your biggest weakness? And this is one of those tough interview questions where people think, oh no, I don't want to give them a weakness that is a match for the job. And that's exactly right. You don't want to do this. So again, this is pretty much guaranteed to come up during your first job interview, but do not give a weakness, whatever you do, that is a requirement of the job. For example, if you are going for an interview for a job where you need to speak to or deal with customers, don't say to the interviewer, my weakness is I don't really like working with people, or I don't like dealing with customers, because you simply will not get the job. Also, do not at any time say that one of your weaknesses is that you're late. You know, unfortunately, I tend to be late, but I am trying to improve, because you won't get the job. I can guarantee it. So what we need to do is to give a weakness that is safe, that's not going to do you any harm. So if you are attending your first ever job interview and they say to you, which they will do, what's your biggest weakness? Here's my suggested answer. One thing that frustrates me the most about myself is that I find it really hard to say no to people. If somebody asks me to help them, I will always say yes. Now, the problem is I sometimes take on too much and then I get overwhelmed. Now, although I am very hardworking and I will always help when I am able to, I am learning to think before I say yes to everything. That is a perfect answer to that very first job interview question. What's your biggest weakness? Now, they are also going to ask you the following interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Now, again, this is an extremely common job interview question. Now, whenever I have interviewed people in the past, and I have sat on interview panels numerous times before, I always ask this question. And if the candidate says that they plan to not be working with me in 5 years' time, I will not give them the job. Now, the reason why an interviewer or a hiring manager will ask this question is because they are going to be investing lots of time, energy, and resources into getting you trained up in the role. So therefore, the last thing they want to hear is that you're going to leave within a few months or even within the first year to go somewhere else. So here's my suggested answer to this interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? This is my first job and I plan to stay here for a long period of time. Now, providing you are happy with my performance, which I genuinely believe you will be, I will still be here in 5 years' time for sure. 5 years from now, I expect to be a highly respected member of the team, fully competent in my duties, and someone who can perhaps help train up new members of the team when they join in similar positions to myself. So you are not just saying, I plan to still be here. You are showing vision in the fact that you are thinking in 5 years' time, you're going to be fully respected, great at your work, fully competent, and also perhaps helping the company train up new members of the team who join in similar positions. So that is a brilliant answer. Now, they are also going to say to you when you get to the end of the interview, do you have any questions? The vast majority of people say, no, I don't have any questions. You've covered everything in the interview. But if you say that, you are missing a golden opportunity here to ask some questions that show, number one, you care about the success of their company. Number two, you are enthusiastic to learn more. And also, you can't wait to get started. So when they say to you, do you have any questions? Here's what I would say. Yes, I'd like to ask just 3 questions, if I may, please. What would you need me to concentrate on in the job within the first few weeks of starting? So that shows, again, you've got vision. You're looking ahead and thinking, right, what am I going to be doing in the job within the first few weeks of starting? I would also say, what are the future plans for the company? And do you have any new products or services coming out soon? That shows you care and you are interested in the success of the business. Number 3, whilst I'm waiting to find out the results of my interview, is there any further information or literature I can read to learn a little bit more about the company? Now, they're probably going to say to you, no, it's okay, we'll be in touch soon to let you know the results. But if you said that to me, I would be thinking, wow, they really do want to find out as much as possible about the company. I would not ask any more than 3 questions. 2 or 3 questions is perfect. Don't sit there and ask them 5 or 6 or even 7 questions because they have to interview other people and they haven't got time. But I think 3 questions like that are brilliant. They show that you care and that you are enthusiastic. So the next thing to do, please do click that link in the top right-hand corner of the video and have a look at the 21 questions that I recommend you prepare for. On that page, you can download all of the questions, including the ones I've gone through now, and also brilliant answers. I've also answered some of the common questions people ask about job interviews, their first ever job interview, such as what should I wear for my interview? How can I be the standout candidate? So do check them out. I've also given you 5 brilliant tips in addition to the ones I've worked through within this presentation on that page. So do click that link and have a look at that page. You will find it useful and you can download the answers if you want to as well. Please don't forget to subscribe. I will help you throughout your career. So any job interview you've got coming up, I will help you to pass it. Make sure you subscribe. And also please do give the video a like, because as I said at the beginning, that communicates to me that you enjoy the content, you find it worthwhile and enjoyable, and I will then spend more time creating it for you. Thank you for watching, and I really do want you to pass your first job interview. Tell me if you've been successful in the comment section below. That would be great. Have a brilliant day, and thank you for watching.